So we've got a review of Module 3, and we're going back to that second section we did many weeks ago about blood alcohol content. And this first question is about what BAC means. And some important things that are mentioned here is BAC is a percentage, and we often leave that off. So we say 0.08, but we really mean 0.08%, or 0.04 when we really mean 0.04%. And here I'm asked, how does that relate to 1,000 grams of blood? So I just want to go over how to address this question here, which gets down to the heart of what BAC means. So BAC, blood alcohol content, is a fraction of the grams of alcohol in your bloodstream compared to the grams of blood that you have. And then we rewrite that as a percent. So if somebody, took some blood from me and they said, I have so much alcohol in my bloodstream, and then they made an estimate of how much blood I had, and they divided those two, they might get something like 0.08%, which would be right at the legal limit for driving in most states. And again, often we say just 0.08, but we really mean 0.08%. Percent means divide by 100, so 0.08% really means 0.08 divided by 100, and that's going to shift the decimal place twice to the left, making this a smaller number.
To 0.8, right?
No, I need to move, dividing by 100 is going to make that smaller, so it will be 0.0008. So I have two decimal places to make it smaller.
Okay, because I got it right. I'm sorry. It says
I'm not done. I'm just getting started here. So again, what is blood alcohol content? It's the ratio of grams of alcohol to grams of blood that someone has. And 0.08 really means 0.08%. 0.08% means 0.0008. Now that's slang. The correct way to read it is by identifying each place value. And we have the tenths, hundredths, thousandths, 10,000ths. So 0.0008 really means 8 over 10,000. So that's what a BAC of 8% means. 8 grams of alcohol for every 10,000 grams of blood. Now you got to be a pretty huge individual to have 10,000 grams of blood. The average male probably has around 7,000 grams of blood in their body. I'm a little smaller than average, so maybe I have 5,000, let's say. So 8 over 10,000, like if I want to compare to me, I'm estimating I have about 5,000 grams of blood in my body. So that's half of 10,000. So that means at 0.08, I would have 4 grams of alcohol in my bloodstream. So 4 grams alcohol to 5,000 grams of blood. Now, this particular question asked about what about 1,000 grams of blood?
Right.
Well, I can do the same thing. 8 over 10,000 equals what over 1,000? And there's 2 ways to solve that. One way is to just realize that this number right here is 10 times smaller. So the numerator has to be 10 times smaller. So 8 divided by 10 means that should be 0.08 out of 1,000. The other way to do this is just to write down the original meaning. So let's pick a different amount. Suppose somebody claims to have a BAC of 0. Let's make a real high one, 1.5. So they're very, very intoxicated. That really means 0.15%. Percent means divide by 100. So again, that's 0.15 divided by 100. And I want to know what is that out of 1,000. Okay, so regardless of what it is, I take the BAC, divide by 100. Why? Because BAC is really a percent. And I was asked, what is this out of 1,000? And so I can answer any question. If they said, what is it out of 2,000? I put a 2,000 here. If they said, what is it out of 6,000, I put a 6,000 down here. One way to solve it is to, sometimes you can recognize, like over here, I recognize that if I cut that in half, I get 5,000, so I have to cut the top in half to keep it equal. Okay. If you don't recognize something like that, then the alternative to solve proportions is to cross multiply and divide. So that would give me 0.15 times 1,000 equals question mark times 100, where question mark is my missing number up there. And then to finish this, I would divide by the 100. So I'd ask my calculator, what is 0.15 times 1,000 over 100? And hopefully my calculator tells me that it is 1.5. So
Okay, that's what mine says.
And the point here is, what does BAC mean? So 0.15 times 1,000 divided by 100. Google Calculator says it's 1.5. So then I could write a sentence. If a person, and you're going to have to write sentences on the test, has a BAC of 1.5%, then they have 1 gram of alcohol. Oops, no, 1.5 grams of alcohol. Let's clean that up. That was a little messy. And they have 1.5 grams of alcohol for every 1,000 grams of blood in their body. So on a test, I would expect to see some work, whatever your work is, that gets a calculation, and then I'm going to ask for a sentence telling me what that calculation means. And so just about every single question on the test, there'll be 10 questions, I think, will have some work and then at least one sentence to write. All right, let's check out number 3. So this one right here, I calculated 0.08. And this one right here would end up being just 1. Remember, the other one I had 0.15 and it ended up being 1.5. Calculate those. And again, if you're having trouble with that, get a similar question, and then practice, reading this and writing your own sentence. So here I wrote most of the sentence for you. On the test, you're going to have to write the sentence. All right, number 3. This is our original equation we played with several times. We took a look at that last class, and just a reminder about what those letters mean. And then I have the situation here of a female student. So that tells me what my gender factor is. 5 drinks, weighs 110 pounds. I want to clean up the equation. So this question was taken directly out of lesson 3.2. And let's get a new page and play with it. That's all I need so far. So what do we know? So it's always a good idea to summarize. So on my test, I would write down, this is number 3, and things to note. I have a female, so that tells me that G is 0.55. I have N equals 5 drinks, and W equals 110 pounds. Next thing I would do is write down the equation and then start plugging things into it. So I have B equals negative 0.015 times T plus 2.84 times N over WG. And so what do we know? We know W, G, and N. So we know enough to fill in here. We don't know T yet, and we don't know B So I was just asked to use the given values to simplify the equation. So next is plug those in. Oops, missed a 0. Let's see, 5 drinks, that's quite a few. And then 110 times 0.55. So the next thing I would do is I would just plug all this into my calculator and see what is that number right there. Calculator time. So we've got 2.84 times 5 drinks divided by, and on this calculator I need parentheses, 110 times 0.55. Type that right, so I'm getting to 3 decimal places, and I would go 3 decimal places here because they told me to round to the nearest thousandth, and because this number in the formula up above has 3 decimal places. Some people may argue 2 is better because that had 2 decimal places, and that is a good argument. But we're going to go with 3, so 235 would be my number there. So I'd expect to see stuff written down like this on your paper. Anytime you plug something into a calculator, put it on paper first. In case something goes wrong, you can double check. So we do have a formula, so I've got that part. What's next? Next, I am asked to build a table for 1, 3, and 5 hours. And I could either do that in a spreadsheet or with a calculator. Now, I feel comfortable that all of you know how to use your calculator well enough to do these one at a time, so I'm just going to review how to do it on a spreadsheet. I'm going to make a new Google Sheet. The same thing works in Excel. Anytime you make a new sheet, you should name it in case you need it again. So this is going to be Module 3 review. And then to blow it up so you all can see better. Okay, see if that's big enough. Let's go one more time. All right, hopefully that's big enough. All right, so let's see, what do I need to keep track of? I should put a note of my formula in here. And so I'm just going to type E equals negative 0.015 T plus 235? 235. Did I write it down in my notes right? Yep. Okay. So just a reference, because I'm going to need to know that. And then I want to look at hours versus BAC here. And I want 1, 3, and 5. So I can just type those in there. And then if I want to calculate the BAC here, I have to do equals on a spreadsheet. And then I start typing my formula, negative 0.015. On a spreadsheet, the asterisk, shift 8 is multiply. And I need to multiply by the hours, so I just click on the hours next to me. So there's my negative 0.015 times T. And then I add on that 0.235. And I'm just going to keep repeating that calculation coming down here. So once I type it once, and it references a number next to it, then I can click back on it, then point to the bottom corner. Notice my cursor changes from a pointer to a plus, and with that plus, click and drag down. Now I can see I made a mistake here. I typed a 3, but the cool thing is because of my formula here, if I replace that with a 2, it will recalculate it for me. Okay, so did I type all that right? Double check.
It's usually 1, 3, and 5 on the test.
Oh shit, right. I mean, shoot. Thank you, Brenda.
Shit,
That's why I had a 3 there. That was supposed to be a 3, and that was supposed to be a 5. Good job. I remember a couple of us made that mistake way back when we were doing this the first time. We typed 1, 2, 3 on our calculators or computers.
Yep.
It's 1, 3, and 5. Okay, good eyes. All right, and again, the cool thing is because I have the formula here, I can type any number I want. Like if somebody said, how about 4 and 7? And the computer just recalculates stuff for me. All right, so 3, 5. Okay, so those are my numbers there, and it looks like, oh yeah, because of the 5 here and the 5 here, things just come out nice. I could double check by showing more decimal places. I can see those third places are definitely zeros. So mine are 0.22, 0.19, 0.16. So let's go over here. What patterns do you notice in the data? Well, as time goes by, the BAC is dropping. There's lots of patterns here. So type something that's relevant. As time goes by, the BAC decreases. Now, the point of this course is quantitative literacy, which means, you know, being literate with numbers. So I maybe should be more specific. Like my mom might say, how much is it dropping, Gary? Oh,
How about like every 2 hours also?
yeah, so here it's going every 2 hours. So okay, I could be more specific because my mom's not going to like that. And it looks like every 2 hours, BAC drops by how much? I need a calculator. So I want to know what is this number minus that number. So over here, I'm just going to make a note. I'm doing change. And I want to know what is this number minus that number, because I haven't had enough coffee today. It says negative 0.03. Google wants to fill it for me. Oh, sure. So what did it fill down here? If I double click on a calculation, it shows me what 2 numbers it used. So I can see, okay, from 1 to 3, it dropped by 0.03. And then from 3 to 5 hours, it again dropped by 0.03. All right, seems pretty straightforward there. So I can be more specific. Every 2 hours, the BAC drops by 0.03. And just to be more specific, I'm gonna throw the percent in there, even though we tend to ignore it. Don't put it up here, that will mess up the answer. It won't like the answer if you type the percent there.
That was my question. On the first one, it just came out to 0.03, but then I practiced again and it came out to negative. Do I have to write the negative? It
For
came
the
out.
BAC, like if this came out negative right here, then I would have to type the negative. Yeah. And what does that mean? So I'm just going to keep going on this table for a minute. So here I have every 2 hours, right? 1, 3, 5. I'm going to go further and like 7, 9, 11 hours later, right? So I'm just counting by 2s, starting at 1. 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11. If I fill this down here, now it's going to keep dropping by 0.03, but that can't happen forever because I'm going to run out of alcohol. And eventually, these numbers are going to end up negative. And how can I have a negative BAC, right? Either you have alcohol in your body or you don't. So this right here isn't relevant. My last calculation. Somewhere between 15 and 17 hours is when the alcohol has left my system. Okay, and I could figure out what time that happens at by solving an equation. So if you have a negative BAC in a calculation, like here, enter it as a negative number, but practically, right, that means, oh, we ran out of alcohol before that. Okay, so it's just an important thing to note. But it is possible to get a negative answer, even though in reality, the negative answer doesn't mean anything. All right, now this question right here, you really got to pay attention. It says, how much does the student's BAC change each hour? Over here, I have every 2 hours. So on a piece of paper, I need to figure that out. So at the moment, I have a drop of 0.03 per 2 hours. And to get that per hour, I just need to do the division. What is 0.03 divided by 2? And if I do that, that'll give me what we call a unit rate. So ask my calculator. What is 0.03 divided by 2? and I get 0.015. So that's equal to negative 0.015 per 1 hour. And one thing about this problem, interesting thing about that, that's the slope of my equation. Remember, my equation equals B equals negative 0.015 T plus 235, is that right? Yep. And this equation is like our y equals mx plus b. So my slope is a change in BAC, which is a drop of 0.015% per hour. If I needed to write a sentence, I'd need to know all of that. And B is my starting point. So starting at a BAC of 0.235. So if this woman drank 5 beers immediately, then her BAC would be about 0.235 before we started counting. So if I were to look at a graph of this, which Excel can do graphs, and so can this, if I graph hours versus BAC, let's just go that far. Insert chart. And then I show zeros. Let's see, I need to customize horizontal, and I want to see 0 on there. All right, if I trace this line back to the axis here, it should hit at 0.235. So here's 0.2, here's 0.25. This line trend seems to be ending up under 0.25, and my claim is it ends up at 0.235 because that's the y-intercept of this graph. All right, so that looks reasonable here. So there will be some questions where you have to tell me, what does the slope mean? What does the y-intercept mean? So if somebody asked me to interpret the slope, I'm going to take this a little farther. That's essentially what the next question was asking. Interpret this slope. Slope needs to be written as a fraction. So if there isn't a denominator, write it over 1. Write what the numerator means. The numerator is always the dependent variable. My dependent variable here is BAC. It's measured in percent. The independent variable is always the denominator. Independent. And that's my time, and that's measured in hours. So this slope would be the BAC is the negative would be decreasing by 0.015% per hour would be one way to write it. And there's other ways.
You don't need to write like decreasing by negative.
If you say decreasing by a negative, that's a double negative and makes it possible.
What I thought.
Yeah, so the word decreasing is my negative right there.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, so if a number is negative, we want to state decreasing somewhere instead of negative, right? We want to state what it means in reality. Okay. And then if I needed to interpret the y-intercept, the y-intercept is a point. So what that point would be is 0 for the independent variable, 0.235 for the dependent variable. The 0 is hours, and the 0.35 is the percent BAC. So, so what I could say is something like after their 5th drink, their BAC is about 0.235%. So that's their starting point. All right, so let's get back to that problem we were working on. Let's see, I got a couple of different patterns here, a vague one and a more specific version of it. How much does it change by? So here they say change, they didn't say increase or decrease. So here I gotta put the negative in, 0.015, because I was asked to enter a number, and that number is negative. Graph by plotting the points. And again, this is a 2-point grapher, so just pick 2 of your numbers there to graph. So I think I'll do that for fun. Let's do the 0.22 and the 0.16. 1.22, about there-ish. And then 0.16 goes with 5. I think that one goes there-ish. And if you're not sure, you can always grab them and move them. And then the y-intercept should be 2.35, which is a little bit above 2.3 up here on the axis. I can just barely see it, so that looks right. And that's all we had to do. Oh, I forgot to enter my equation. Might as well do that, get another point. And, oh, what did I get wrong?
You have to read it.
It's waiting for me to grade this. Yep. Sorry, I forgot about that. Yeah, so I will go grade those tonight if you've already done that.
Yeah, there's 3 of them, I think, or maybe 4.
You had to write sentences. Yeah, I will do that tonight. All right, let's see, what other questions look like fun? Oh yeah, number 4. So number 4 asks us to solve an equation, and instead of doing this one, I'm just going to go back to the one I was working on. And I might wonder, on the one I was working on, when is this particular female, when is their BAC going to be 0? Or when is their BAC going to be at below the legal limit? And let's suppose she's a truck driver and her legal limit, let's say it's 0.5. So I might wonder, when is her limit going to be at around 0.5? Now I have a spreadsheet where I typed a bunch of numbers in, and I could use the spreadsheet to guess, but what I want to do is use an equation to calculate. So here, let's see, somewhere between 11 and 13 hours, her BAC is going to be near 0.5. So I have a guess at the answer just by looking at my spreadsheet. I'm going to calculate it. New page. When is this woman's BAC going to be at or below 0.05%? Question mark. So I know her equation. Her equation is B equals negative 0.015 times the time plus 0.235. And I want to know when her B is that number. So all I do is plug it in. So that's the B, that goes over here. So to solve an equation like this, we're trying to get this T by itself there. So the easiest way to do it is to get rid of the things that are farthest away, and the 0.235 is farthest away. Since it's added, I'm going to subtract it. So I'm going to minus 0.235, and this number is my target, 0.235, and I'm going to ask my calculator about that. So I've got 0.05 minus 0.235. And always, it's super important you write this on paper so you can like double check. Are you really plugging the right numbers in? So does what you wrote on paper match what you're typing in your calculator? And especially on a test, you need to assure yourselves of these things because that's checking your work as you go. So it looks like I typed it right, negative 0.185. So you need to do careful accounting on paper and your calculators to make sure you're on the right track. So negative 0.185, double check, did I copy that right? Yep. All right, so that is equal to 0.015 T and that should be negative. That's gone. I think I'm good. Next step is to break this multiplication here by dividing the negative 0.015, because division and multiplication cancel each other. Keep it balanced by doing the same thing on the other side. Here I have a number divided by itself as 1. 1 times t is t, and then it's calculator time again. Super important. Anytime you touch your calculator when you're taking your test, ask yourself, did I write what's on what I'm doing here on paper? So I want that divided by negative 0.015, and I get 12.333. And I'm rounding that because it's a ton of decimal places. I'm going to put a wavy equals to remind myself, 12.333. I'm just going to go 3 decimal places for a minute, and then I would look back at the problem and think about what they said to do there. But is this reasonable? So I already had a bunch of numbers on a table in my spreadsheet. Does that many hours seem reasonable compared to my spreadsheet? Yeah, I was thinking it was going to happen between 11 and 13 hours. I'm aiming for 0.05. 12.33 is right in the middle. And actually, my spreadsheet is set up that I could just go in here and type 12.333, and it will calculate the number for me. And look at that's pretty 0.05. It's probably not quite that if I showed more decimal places. Yeah, it's a little off later, but close enough for now. So my spreadsheet confirms, yeah, that point does fall in line with the other ones. Where's that one? Here, there it is. And when I point to them, it's kind of cool. The spreadsheet tells me, hey, that's the point you're looking at. All right, so, and here, like I need to type it in the box too. It says enter an integer or decimal number. It doesn't say anything about rounding. And so I'm just kind of thinking about the numbers here. This number has 2 decimal places. This number has 3 decimal places. The previous problem, they asked for 3 decimal places. So I'm just going to go for 3. Now, I didn't solve this question, so that's not the right answer here. This one is a male with 5 glasses and 160 pounds. So that's not the right answer. But if it were a female, at 110 pounds, then I definitely got the right answer based on my work and my spreadsheet agree with each other. If you do work on a spreadsheet and you're a Google user, hopefully you remember this, you can share. And when you do share, just make sure it's not restricted, that the link allows anyone with the link to view it. Otherwise, I can't see it. So then you could give me this link here. If you're an Excel user, just there's a place to upload your file while you're taking the test or after. All right, let's see. What else looks like fun? I think I kind of beat the heck out of the blood alcohol stuff. I'm gonna stop the recording.